We're here for another fun day. Kids in Tech, filled with some more great statistics. I did have some people tell me that as we went through that, they were shocked. They realized how much maybe they use their phone. So it actually made me feel good because I felt like last week I should have just started out by raising my hand and saying, "Hi, I'm Josh. I'm addicted to my cell phone." So it was good to know that some of you guys, well, first of all, that you listened. But also that some of you guys realize that we are on our smartphones a whole lot more than we think we are. And so as we talked about smartphones last week, we just talked about how much they've just become a part of our lives. They're just a natural part of our lives that a lot of times we don't even realize. And our kids who have grown up with smartphones and technology and screens, well, they don't know what it's like not to have a smartphone in reality. They don't know what it's like to grow up in a generation where there is no screen. I remember going outside and playing G.I. Joes and not running to a computer screen. Our kids don't remember that. And they don't remember, they don't realize, I think, how hooked they are. We're going through a series in Ignite called Take Back Control, and we were talking about our eyes. And a question I asked our teens was, can you go a day without our phone? And, they're all like, yeah. They all shook their head yes. And I kindly reminded them that as I was preparing for this message, obviously I knew I was going to teach it. And so I was watching them out, before we came in, and most of the kids shaking their head were on their phone the whole time. So our kids are just used to it. It's very natural to them. And so we went through a lot of the statistics, and we saw the result of being on your smartphone for so long and just being kind of used to it is because you become addicted to it. You become depressed. A lot of kids and a lot of adults are depressed and they don't even realize it because of why? Because they're on their phones so often. And then there's just a lack of social skills. I mean, people just don't know how to have a simple conversation anymore because they're so glued to their screens. And with the use of our smartphone, that leads us into what we're going to talk about today. Because today we're going to talk about social media and apps. And so as the phone became a common part of our lives, well, so has social media. And it's completely changed the way that we live our lives. And as we go through this, I'm going to warn you, I may have mentioned it last week, I hate social media. I didn't start out hating social media, but when I see what it does to our kids and what it does to our cultures, I hate social media. So I'm going to try not to get too worked up. And so when Craig gets worked up, he's more softer. When I get worked up, I'm a little more intense. A few of the kids are excited to see how I respond in this class because they're like, what's he going to say? Well, okay, we're going to find out. But I am very passionate about this subject because it does affect our kids. It affects them in a great way, and it's not a positive effect that it's having. And so I will say this, I'm not here to tell you parents what apps you and your kids should have. Me and Craig are not the app police. Me and Craig do not want to be the app police. I'm here just to warn you what's out there. I'm here to warn you what our kids are looking at every day. In fact, you'll see a long list of apps that are potentially dangerous or different things at the end. Some of our kids were like, I've never heard of some of these apps. So, okay, most of those kids, if we're being honest, their parents are watching them over here. Their parents are watching their screen, so they probably may not have access to it in the app store. But the apps we're going to talk about, almost every site I went to, talking about dangerous apps, these apps showed up. There are widely popular apps on that list that teenagers are going to. And just because a few of them in this room may not have seen it, man, it's affecting our kids because kids are using it or else they wouldn't be considered dangerous and it wouldn't be warning parents like page after page not to let their kids use it. And I do want to also remind you, last week, if you weren't here, by the way, on the Facebook page, if you have joined that, I believe we posted that. Did we post that, Craig? If not, I'll post last week's message. I think the reason that Craig didn't post it is because I didn't send him the link, so that's my fault. But we will post that so you can listen to it. But last week I started out talking about a few verses, and we talked about that we need to guard our eyes. We've got to watch what our eyes see. We need to guard our minds, and we need to guard against our enemies. And so as we talked about that last week, if you were here, man, this applies to social media. This applies to apps. Like everything we talked about at the beginning of last week completely applies to what we're going to talk about today. And we have to be able to guard our kids against this stuff. And so when it comes to social media, it's actually been around for a while. It's just kind of developed. Anybody have AOL Instant Messenger or ICQ? Anybody here? Remember was that AOL? Yeah. All the young kids are like, what are you talking about? But if you had your little monitor, and you sat at your desk, and you're talking to your friends, AOL would go, uh-oh. Well, that was kind of how social media began. And then there was MySpace, which I forgot about. I think I caught the end of the MySpace craze, and then all of a sudden nobody used it. And then in 2004, everything began to change, because in 2004, Facebook became a thing. And so I remember signing up for Facebook. I remember thinking, man, this is great. I'm connecting with my friends. I reconnected with a friend. His name is Paul. I went to school with him, and I went to church with him, and he went to the Navy, and so I didn't get a chance to talk to him. So we reconnected. And I'm like, this is great. And in the beginning, social media was just reconnecting with people. In the beginning, when they made the like button, you know what? They did it with good intention. They did it, and it's like, man, I can like people's photos. This is great. And so I remember Facebook being this thing. I was like, man, this is going to be great. Social media is going to be a wonderful thing. I remember thinking that. And as we go through a very quick timeline, you have YouTube. It came out in 2005. Twitter came out in 2006. Instagram came out in 2010. Snapchat and Pinterest came out in 2011. And then things just kept rolling from there. Just think about that. 2005, 2006, 2010, 2011. Everything just keeps moving faster and faster, and more stuff comes out. And you're going to look at some of these apps on the back, and you're going to realize that the world is not slowing down with putting out social media and apps. They're just pumping it out there. And you can get anything you want, anytime you want, in social media or in apps. And since Facebook and social media has just simply exploded, you see a quote on your thing from a website called Backlinko on your study sheet. It says, social network platforms almost tripled their total use based on the last decade, from 970 million in 2010 to the number passing 4.48 billion users in July 2021. Think about that. In 10 years, we went from 970 million users to 4.48 billion. And we're going to see some more statistics. It's actually up to 4.55 billion. But think about that. There's 7.9 billion people in the world, and 4.5 billion of them are on social media right now. And we're also going to see that it's not just one. It's not like we just pick, well, I'm going to be on Facebook today. No, they're on a lot of different social medias. And the problem is, as social media progressed, so did our addiction to it. And as our addiction progressed, you know what social media platforms realized? They realized that we're addicted to it. And so they work tirelessly to get us to keep coming back and keep coming back. In Facebook and TikTok and Snapchat, you know what they do? They have people who just work. And we're going to talk about algorithms here in a second. They have people who work to get you to come back. They have people that work to get your kids to come back because they know that you're going to be addicted to it. Has anybody watched the documentary Social Dilemma? Okay, only a few. Okay, so it's on Netflix. It's called Social Dilemma. It's a really good documentary. You should watch it. I'm going to warn you, it talks a lot about social media. It's actually very eye-opening, and it can be a little nerve-wracking. It really can. But it goes into the algorithms and all the stuff that social media uses to get you and get your kids to come back. A lot of people, from like people who worked on Facebook like button, people who are CEOs of Pinterest and different things, and who have left because they felt guilty about how they operate in social media and how they were trying to get people to come back. One thing that they all said is they don't allow their kids on social media because they know what social media is doing. And Facebook, Snapchat, and TikTok know exactly what they're doing, guys. Exactly what they're doing. And we're going to see TikTok, by the way, is the most evil of them all. And you're going to see a quote on your sheet from Dr. Don Grant, and it says, social media use targets our limbic system through its... Social media targets our limbic system through the susceptibility to intermittent variable rewards, the basic idea behind slot machine design that get us hooked and come back for more. Our brain keeps seeking the dopamine hit that comes with the next post we see on our feed, or the next reaction to something we've posted. Research also suggests that these rituals may prime the brain for other future unhealthy dependencies or addictions. So Dr. Don's trying to tell us, you know what? Social media is going to get you hooked just like a slot machine. And you're like, well, that's crazy. But that's what it is, because whenever you're scrolling through Facebook, each next post, or whenever you're trying to see, man, did someone like it? Did they like my post? Your brain is sending off a dopamine hit. And anybody ever hear about dopamine? Okay, so a few of you. So dopamine, I have a definition. This is not mine. I pulled this off the internet. Google helped me out on this. Dopamine is a type of neurotransmitter. Your body makes it. Your nervous system uses it to send messages between two nerve cells. That's why it's sometimes called a chemical messenger. Dopamine plays a role in how we feel pleasure. It's a big part of our unique human ability to think and plan. And so, just so you know, every time you get a notification, every time you're scrolling through Facebook, your brain is setting off what they call a dopamine hit. And the reason people get addicted and the reason people enjoy themselves so much on social media in the moment is because they're getting a dopamine hit. And so if you've ever researched anything about pornography and the addiction to pornography, you're going to run into the dopamine. Because as you're looking at pornography and as you're going through that stuff, your brain's just setting off dopamine. And not only does your flesh like it, not only does your eyes like what you're seeing, but your brain is just setting off the dopamine. And you're like, man, this is great. You get that hit. It's the same thing that drug addicts get. And so there's just this hit going on and on and on. Studies have shown that whenever you're looking at social media, you're getting that dopamine hit. And it's the same as drugs. It's the same as pornography. In Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, you name your favorite social media network, you name your favorite app. They know that. They know that. And the reason they know that is they've done their homework and they're going to do everything they can to get you back on their site because they know when your teen's scrolling through TikTok for 2 hours or whatever it is, maybe that's an exaggeration, but when they're just scrolling through, when they walk through that door and they're scrolling through before night, when they go home at the dinner table and they're scrolling through, there's a dopamine hit going on. And they know and TikTok knows if they're on my site, they're getting it from us and they're going to come back. And so with that being said, let's just start to look at some of the statistics of social media. And I know some of you aren't statistics people. Like I said last week, I'm a nerd. I love statistics. And so I'm going to go over some of these things, but they're very eye-opening. So if you're like, man, I hate statistics, just don't tune it out and just get the idea of what's going on in our world right now. Once again, the total number of active social media users is 4.55 billion. That's the latest. 4.55 billion people use social media. So when your teen or whoever, your little kid gets on social media, he's scrolling through TikTok, or he's scrolling through all his social media platforms, there's 4.55 billion people using social media in the world right now. Now, those are not all the pure of heart people. You know, you don't have to go through and test if you're pure and if you're good and you have good intentions on social media. 4.55 billion people on social media. The average social media user engages with an average of 6.6 various social media platforms. So you don't just pick one. The average person in the world uses 6.6 various social media platforms. According to the Global Web Index, the average number of social media accounts of millennials, which is ages 10 through 25, they look at 8.4. So worldwide, the average Gen Zer will look at 8.4 social media platforms daily. 8.4. Some of you are thinking, I didn't even know there was 8.4 out there. 93% of internet users are on social media. So if you're using the internet, you're probably on some form of social media. An average person spends 142 minutes every day on social media. 142 minutes. That means the average time a person spends on social media is roughly 2 hours and 36 minutes. That's 16 and a half hours a week just on social media. If your teen is looking at social media for 16 and a half hours, that's 16 and a half hours of dopamine hits, by the way. Think of it that way. If someone signed up at 16 and lived to be 70, they would spend 5.7 years of their life on it. That's a lot of time on social media. 16 to 24-year-olds spend at least 3 hours on social media a day. Studies found that some teens spend as much as 9 hours a day on social media alone. That's a lot of time to be on social media. It's a lot of time for dopamine hits to be going off in your teen's brain. It's a lot of time that the world gets to influence our kids. 72.3% of the total U.S. population actively use social media, totaling a number of 240 million people. So roughly 72% of the U.S. population is actively, that doesn't say uses it, that says actively, meaning you're active in it, you're on it, you're scrolling through it, you've got to check it. 240 million people in the U.S. 1 in 3 children are cyberbullied, and 70% of children say they have cyberbullied someone online. So with this idea of social media and all our kids being on it, cyberbullying is up. You know, if I'm having a conversation with someone and I'm talking to one of my friends, if I'm talking to Nate and we have to have a serious conversation and we're face to face, I'm going to watch what I say because he's going to have a reaction. I'm going to have to read his social cues. He's going to get angry if I say something mean. But if I send a text, I get on social media and I don't like someone's post, I can become a keyboard warrior. I can say whatever I want. And we have this idea that if I'm on social media and nobody can see me, I can say what I want. And that's what teens do. They get on, they think they're cool, their friends get a response or whatever it is. People like, oh, hey, we're making fun of them. This is great. You can say things you'd never say in person. So therefore, cyberbullying's up, which plays a role in all of the depression and all the anxiety and the suicides rates going up. Because our kids will hop on social media. We've just seen how many people use them. All our kids are hopping on, and people are like, oh, I'll just post whatever I want to post. No, it doesn't matter. 50.1% of the time spent on phones was done using social media apps in 2020. That number is only on the rise, by the way, and that statistic isn't focused on our kids. It's just worldwide. It's just everybody. Now let's look at how much time some of us use popular apps. Facebook. Now, understand, parents, your kids probably aren't using Facebook. When they think of Facebook, they think of old people. I still look at Facebook. Users spend an average of 33 minutes a day on Facebook. 33 minutes a day. Instagram, 29 minutes. It's 29 minutes of people just scrolling through pictures. 29 minutes. YouTube, 41.9 minutes per day. YouTube boasts of 2 billion monthly active users, and they watch over 5 billion videos daily. 5 billion videos. This is about 1 billion hours of video each day. YouTube stated their 1.8 billion users spend an average of 1 hour a day watching videos on their mobile devices, and that was in 2018. It's a lot of videos. Now, I get on YouTube quite a bit to figure out how to do things. So YouTube can be very helpful. But man, you can go down the wrong path on YouTube. It suggests some things to you, and the next thing you know, you're watching things you're like, what the heck? Snapchat, 28 minutes. 2,083,333 snaps are sent every minute. The average daily active user accesses the Snapchat camera more than 30 times a day. 95% of Snapchat users claim that the app makes them feel happy. Well, it makes them feel happy because when they're on it, they're getting a dopamine hit. And in the moment, they do feel happy. TikTok averages 32 minutes. In 2020, 63% of TikTok users in the U.S. were aged between 10 and 29. Now, between Snapchat and TikTok alone, users spend an average of an hour on their phone looking at those social media networks. And we're going to see soon, it's going to be very clear. I don't like those two apps, and I'll explain to you why soon. But 60 minutes a day on those two apps alone. And by the way, as I'm scrolling through and I'm doing all the research on the dangerous apps and all the websites, you know what always showed up on those apps? It's not the obscure dark ones. The first few that would be listed would be Snapchat and TikTok. And so we can't talk about all these social media stats, and we can't talk about social media without talking about the algorithms that are behind them. And I do highly recommend that you watch The Social Dilemma. Even if you have to pay, if you don't have Netflix, pay for it for a month, find The Social Dilemma, watch it, and delete the account. I highly recommend you, because everything on The Social Dilemma is actually true. They're not making it up. They're not, when you hear about all these algorithms, all the stuff we're going to talk about, as a computer science person, as one of those nerds, I work with guys who would do things like that. I know how they work, and this is what they do. There's some very, very smart people out there controlling these algorithms. You know what? TikTok and Snapchat at the end of the day need you. They need you to be on their app so they can make money. And so as we go through algorithms, don't tune me out if you're thinking, oh, algorithms and math. I don't have to listen to this part. Don't tune me out. In fact, if you don't get anything, get this. Get this part about algorithms. Like I said, watch The Social Dilemma. So I'm just going to read, and I believe it's in your notes. what an algorithm is in terms of social media and on the internet. Algorithms and social media platforms can be defined as technical means of sorting posts based on relevancy instead of publish time, in order to prioritize which content a user sees first according to the likelihood that they will actually engage with such content. For example, the posts which are recommended to you when you scroll through your Instagram feed, or the stories of your friends that appear first on the dashboard, are determined by algorithms. So the algorithm's job is to watch what you do, watch what you like, watch how long you stay on a post, watch how long you stare at a picture, and then based upon that, it's going to send you more feeds. Have you ever been on Facebook or what? Sorry, I go to Facebook because I don't have any of the other apps. Have you ever been there and all of a sudden you see like a feed from someone you forgot you were friends with? Anybody ever do that? Well, you didn't see their post and you're like, why haven't I seen it? They've been posting because the algorithm didn't want you to see it. They didn't think you had anything in common. They didn't think you were interested in it. So somehow this guy got buried. That's the algorithm. It will simply just collect data on you for one sole purpose, to send you the feeds in your social media that they think will keep you coming back. Algorithms are written by coders who make use of machine learning. Machine learning means that algorithms learn how to carry out tasks under various levels of human oversight. So you have all these algorithms just learning and continue to go and go. And you know what they're learning? They're learning you. That's their job. So they just continue just to look at everything you do. Sometimes I think people think, well, there's just humans back there and they can't catch up. No, there's algorithms. They're back there watching you. Have you ever been shopping for something, you hop on Google, you go to a site, and all of a sudden there's something that pops up, and you're like, man, I just shopped for that. I just searched for that. I think everyone's probably experienced that. Well, that's algorithms in the background. That's a lot of apps sharing a lot of information. We're not even going to get into that, but man, they share a lot of stuff about you. Facebook shares with this person shares with this person, and everybody knows everybody about everything. Have you ever been talking about something? And then bam, it's on your phone. And that's actually how I found my Nissan Pathfinder. We were looking and we were talking about it, and Facebook kept bringing it up. And then I went to get on. I said, Casey, look at this one. They brought up Auto Trader, and it wasn't on there. So if I'm lying, as Brett says, if I'm lying, I'm dying. I shut my Facebook app and I said, man, I really want to talk about Nissan Pathfinders. I talked about it a few times. I opened up Facebook and Auto Trader showed me the Pathfinders. Because they're listening. They are listening. Not scary, but they are. They're listening. I actually think you can turn it off in your apps. I'll have to look, but I think you can turn it off. And you know what? That's an algorithm. They knew I wanted a car. Here you go, Auto Trader. I got a new Pathfinder a few years ago. Social media companies pay a fortune to have geniuses write these things. And they're scary good, by the way. Like, I can't even do justice to what these algorithms can do. Remember the story that Craig gave us the first day about the lady who was it Target? That was on Target, and they knew she was pregnant before she did? That's an algorithm knowing you better than you do. And that sounds so crazy, but that's just an example of how good they are. And algorithms, by the way, they're marketing gold. As you start looking into algorithms, you realize there's all kinds of websites about how to use them, how to interact with them. I mean, Amazon makes a fortune on their algorithms on people like me. Here's some suggestions based on what you've bought or looked at. I mean, I'll say, this is great, thanks. That's an algorithm. An algorithm will just take any information you give them. So anything you do. They watch how long you look at something. We're going to see TikTok. When it comes to Instagram, if you have Instagram and you go through the searches and you go over, hit the explore thing, if you start searching for something, you realize like all the suggested posts below are a bunch of pictures of what you've looked at before. So like when I had Instagram, I had a bunch of pictures of sports, cars, NFL rumors, because they break NFL rumors quick, and Legos. Fortunately, the Legos actually weren't for my kids, they were for me. But I've either liked or looked at pictures of those things. So the algorithm says, well, this guy's going to like it. So as soon as I click on that, that little explore button and I go over to search something, it just bombards me with things that they think I'm going to like. And it works. Well, that's the Lego Death Star. Sweet. Look, there's a sweet Bugatti. Well, let's look at that picture. Now think about our kids who might be looking at inappropriate things. You know what that search bar is going to send them? It's not going to send them Legos. And most of our kids aren't going to have the willpower to be like, oh yeah, let's not look at that half-naked girl. And so as we go through this next section, I want you to, you got to listen, you got to get this, because this is what the TikTok algorithm does. It is called the worst algorithm out there, and it's called the worst algorithm out there by the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. Two of the most liberal newspaper, website, whatever, papers out there. And so first let me tell you that the algorithm, according to both articles, is secretive. So the Wall Street Journal did a bunch of testing, and there's a 14-minute video that I'm going to put on the Facebook thing after sometime today. There's a 14-minute video of everything the Wall Street Journal did and everything they found out about the algorithm. It's fascinating. It's actually kind of scary. But they set up 100 fake accounts and just tested TikTok. The New York Times actually found a whistleblower who worked on the algorithm, and they gave him a whole document of this is what our algorithm does. He felt guilty and said, this is what it does, publish it to the world. And oh, by the way, just to throw it in, TikTok is owned by China. And so there's several things that I'm going to read, and as you listen to this, there's several different places, and I'll try to tell you where I found them at, but I just want you guys to listen to what this algorithm does, and I want you to keep in mind that this is the most popular social media app. I want you to keep in mind that all of our teens are just rushing to TikTok. Everything is on TikTok. Kids will tell me, oh, I don't really go to YouTube as much now because I'm on TikTok. It's just TikTok, 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 TikTok all the time. The Wall Street Journal says officially TikTok says that it uses 4 signals. What you watch, share, link, and follow. So they're watching everything you watch, what you share, what you like, and follow. But the analyst suggests that one of the 4 is by far the most important. And you're going to see this if you watch the video that I send. And a guy says, we found out that TikTok only needs one of these to figure you out. How long you linger over a piece of content. Every second you hesitate or rewatch, the app is tracking you. Through this one powerful signal, TikTok learns your most hidden interests and emotions and dives you deep into rabbit holes of content that are hard to escape. So TikTok, all it does is watch what you do. A lot of the other apps will communicate, they'll watch what you're doing on your phone or watch other things about your habits. TikTok doesn't, it just watches what you watch on their app. So if you're scrolling through and you look away for a while and you watch a particular app, you know what, it's going to think you like that app. If a kid gets on and looking at inappropriate content over and over again, you know what TikTok says? Oh, okay, this is great. If you watch the video, you know what they're going to do? They're going to just keep sending it to you. According to the document by the New York Times from their whistleblower, it says on average, TikTok, and this is crazy, learns the interest of one account user in under 2 hours. According to the document, TikTok content managers have access not only to publicly shared content, but to the content that friends privately upload to the platform to share with each other. So they're just looking at everything you're doing. Even if you're sending a private message inside of TikTok, they're watching it all. Making TikTok's algorithm more powerful than the programs that other social media apps use. Moreover, TikTok excludes the end-to-end encryption that apps like WhatsApp offer. Now listen to what the New York Times says. This is New York Times. In a group of filth, TikTok stands as the filthiest. In an article from Outkick.com, it's actually a sports site, but it had this, and it was referring to the New York Times article. It says, TikTok bombards users with content that it knows they likely won't be able to ignore. And like all satanic blueprints, TikTok especially feeds on the weak. 25% of TikTok's active users in the US are people aged 10 to 19. Each video a kid watches, TikTok gains a piece of information on him. In a few hours, the algorithm can detect his musical taste, his physical attraction, if he's depressed, if he might be on drugs, and many other sensitive information. There's a high risk that some of this information will be used against him. It could potentially be used to micro-target him or make him more addicted to the platform. There's a high risk. That's what they're trying to do. TikTok engineers build an algorithm that manipulates vulnerable people, many of them minors, and then emotionally abuses them. And that's exactly what's happening here, emotional abuse. In a site called Protect Your Eyes said this, here's our concern. The wonderful, miraculous, highly susceptible teenage brain just can't handle the godlike intelligence of this app. I invite you to open an account and maybe you'll experience what I did, an inability to shut it off. I could not believe how quickly 90 minutes evaporated from my life as I thumbed through the For You feed in TikTok. as it zeroed in on what I liked and funneled out more and more of that content my way. I literally couldn't stop watching it. The guy set up an account. Within 90 minutes, he couldn't stop watching it. And he knew what he was getting himself into, by the way. And his article ends like this: if you have a younger child, keep them away from TikTok as long as possible. And here's the reality of the situation. TikTok's algorithm that all of our kids just love so much can know them under 2 hours. TikTok, where our parents hop on and think it's the greatest thing in the world to do these silly little dances, knows you within 2 hours. And the reality of the situation is this: you think that you control what you see on the internet and social media. That's actually not true. The algorithm controls it all. And you say, well, that seems extreme, but it's the reality of the situation. If you begin to study algorithms and you know what they do and you know what they're using them for, you don't control what you see on social media. Your kids don't control what they see on social media, especially TikTok. And parents, we have to guard our kids against this. Because Satan's using these every single day, and he's got all these algorithms, and they're pointed all towards our kids. And when your kids look at something appropriate, you know what TikTok doesn't care about? Doesn't care that it's inappropriate, doesn't care that it'll affect them, doesn't care it's bad for them, it just keeps sending it to them. In the 14-minute video, you know what you're going to find out? If you see hashtags of depression, if you watch videos on breakups, if you watch videos on anxiety, TikTok doesn't care if you're 10. It's going to keep sending it to you. It's going to take you to the furthest sides of TikTok. It's what it does. It's what it's designed to do. And it does it to get them to come back. It's how they make money. They don't care about your kids. And so now we're going to go over a lot of different apps. There's a lot of apps here. It could be overwhelming. But I want you guys to be aware, and I put a little thumbnail there so you know what this app looks like, so if you're looking through your kid's thing. Because listen, I know a lot of kids say I don't know, and I'm not saying you guys are lying over there. I don't know what these are. Well, listen, I'm not going to admit I know what some of these apps are either, by the way, especially to my youth pastor. And as we begin to go through that, there's a few notes of interest I want you to know. This is not all of them. It is insane. As you go through these apps, you click on some of these apps, and you start scrolling through, and holy cow, the Apple App Store is a pretty dark place. There are some parent controls on some of those. TikTok boasts that they have parent controls, but as you begin to read, they're actually pretty easy to get around. Some of these apps say you need to be 17 years or older. It's very interesting now because it's not 18 plus anymore, it's 17 plus. But they're not targeting our kids, are they? But the problem with all of this is they don't actually care how old you are. If I'm 12, I can say I'm 20. If I'm 20, I can say I'm 12. I mean, not to get on a few of these apps, but there's some apps that we're going to see where an adult could easily just walk in and be like, oh, hey, by the way, I'm a kid. And they don't check. There's no way to check for them. They don't care. Predators use these a lot of these apps. I mean, almost every single one we're going to go through has a warning of predators. They're stalking our kids. You know, we so oftentimes say, like, that'll never happen to me. But as me and Craig read through a lot of these articles about predators and sex trafficking and kidnappings, you know what most of the articles started with? I can't believe it happened to us. Because they're targeting your kids. And I found many articles. I was actually pretty surprised by this one. I found many articles. I don't know why I was surprised. But you know what? People are using TikTok, Snapchat, and all these social apps. Their kids are using it to get drugs. I don't know how. I didn't read into it a ton. But they somehow their friends know, somebody knows, and they're getting drugs off social media. That came up surprisingly a lot more than I thought it would when I was researching. And I will say this. If you do allow your kids to be on social media, make sure their account's private. Because if it's not private, anybody can friend them, anybody can follow them, and anybody in some of these apps can just pop into their conversations. So we're going to go through a lot of these, and I want to point out again, many of these apps on the App Store said 17 plus. They just lowered the age. I don't know when we lowered 18 plus to 17 plus, but it won't be long before it's 16 plus. Because they did it, and no one told me. I had no idea. Last time I checked, 17 plus, most of those kids are juniors or seniors in high school. They're targeting our kids. We're going to jump into social media apps, Facebook or Meta now. I stopped following. I don't know what they're trying to do. Zuckerberg's a weirdo. Seriously, that guy's nuts. Listen, parents, your kids probably aren't using it. But if for some reason they are using it, there's a multitude of things they can find on there. And if we've not learned anything through the pandemic and through the elections, places like Facebook, Twitter, and all these things, the reality of the situation is they will filter whatever they feel is good. So it's not like you're actually getting what you want to get anyways. Instagram. Instagram is widely used by teens. At camp, everyone's looking at Instagram. Gotta look at Instagram. Instagram's great. The guys in the cabin, oh yeah, I'm struggling. I'm struggling with looking at inappropriate stuff. Well, it's on my browser, it's on here, it's Instagram. They know where to find it. And as they find it, the algorithm just helps them. It becomes very easy. Oh, I want to hop on Instagram, hit my little explore button, bam, there it all is for the world to see. In fact, a lot of articles I read as I was studying for the pornography study we're going to be doing. You know what a lot of the porn stars are doing? You probably don't. That's a weird way to state that. Sorry. A lot of the porn stars now they're retiring. The top porn star is actually retiring. I feel dirty for knowing this, but I promise you, it's only because I've been studying it. The top female porn star has actually stopped doing porn movies because she has jumped to OnlyFans, which, by the way, if you don't know what OnlyFans is, parents, it's completely evil. Just stay away. But in Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok, because they can get thousands and thousands and thousands of millions of followers, and they make more money on Instagram than they do on doing pornography. On Instagram. A lot of them are heading that way. And like I said, you got to be careful because that explore feature, you just hop on. And whatever the algorithm noticed you've been watching, your kids are going to see. This was said in access.org, and whenever we do our resources, access.org is a phenomenal research, a thing for information and to learn. It's $100 a month, a year. It's well worth $100, parents. But it says about Instagram's Explore feature, provides curated randomness, a category that can exist only in an era of algorithms. The distance between what I like and what Instagram thinks I like is an oceanic, preposterous, deranged. And yet the algorithm is not wrong. I press the like button on the picture of my friend, and the Explore page shows me albino crocodiles. I can't comment on a cute dog, and the Explore page offers circus contortionists. Suddenly, I like those things too. I don't know what the connection is, but Instagram does. If your kid's looking at something inappropriate on Instagram, it's just going to keep feeding it to them. Like I said, these algorithms know you, and as they get to know you, they're going to continue to feed you things. The next thing we're going to look at is Twitter. And so like any other social media platform, Twitter has loads of mature content. If you want to find it, you can find it on Twitter. The problem with Twitter is, one of the biggest problems I found is, like some of these apps, Twitter, nobody actually watches what they say. So there's explicit conversations, but people get on there and they're keyboard warriors and they say whatever the heck they want to say. I can give you example of people who's like, well, I'll say this about this person, but face to face, I never say that. And so Twitter, you just need to watch it. The highest age group that uses Twitter is 25 to 34, so it's not as popular amongst teens, but it is still fairly popular. And by the way, I'm going to go spend some more time on the next couple, but I will start going faster. I'll get you out of here, I promise. Next is Snapchat. Like I said, I hate Snapchat and TikTok. I do see the effects of it on our kids. And so Snapchat, if you don't know what it is, it's an app where you take a picture and make a few comments and send it to someone, and then it disappears. Really, I should be able to end the conversation right there. Anything you send that just magically disappears, why do you think it was created? But the problem is this. If your kid sends something inappropriate to a boyfriend or girlfriend or another friend, you can screen capture it, or you could just take another screen, another phone, and take a picture of it. Those pictures just don't disappear. Our kids think everything just disappears. It doesn't. So in other words, if your kid's sending inappropriate content, it could come back to bite him in the butt in years to come. And then, if you swipe right on TikTok, well, they got a lot of suggested articles. And my goodness, can you find some filth in there? You know, whenever I had TikTok, I was using it, I was trying to figure it out. It was when it was first really starting to get popular, and I was snapping some of the kids. I was still a counselor, and I'm looking and all that stuff, and I swipe right, and there's some articles, and I don't know how it came up, and an article from 17 magazine came up. And I clicked on it and read it because it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. 17 magazine for your teen. How to have sex for the first time. How to get past the awkwardness. In there, it also started to describe how to do it without your parents knowing. So because I clicked on that, well, Instagram thought I must have been a teen, and I kept getting that 17 and Teen Vogue, and you should have seen some of them. Listen, I thrive in awkwardness because I'm friends with Steve Rothel. I am awkward. I feel awkward to tell you some of the articles I saw. One of them was how to have an abortion without your parents knowing. A step-by-step thing to say, hey, we're going to teach you how to have sex. When you get pregnant, we're going to teach you how to have an abortion without your parents knowing. This is what our kids can find out on the internet. And much more. Much more that I can't even tell you guys. That's what your kids are on. Article after article. Because that algorithm, you know what? Well, you clicked on it once, so you must like it, so it's going to keep feeding it. And then here's the thing. This is where I get really frustrated. I hear parents bragging about the Snapchat streaks they have with their kids. Really? This is where I might offend some of you. We're going to draw these kids in? This is why I got rid of Snapchat. There's no way I'm drawing my stinking kids that I'm trying to influence into a thing like Snapchat where they can flip over and learn how to have sex, how to have an abortion. Parents, we have an enemy. We talked about it last week. You don't think he's going to creep in? Well, I don't go over to that site. I don't do that. You don't think your kids do? You don't think your teenage boy is going to swipe over and see the filth that's in there? Why do we encourage our kids to get on this stuff? Quite frankly, why do we let our kids get on this stuff? There's also a thing called Snapchat Premium. You know, you can pay to see a lot of X-rated stuff on Snapchat. Just start paying people. Then there's TikTok, the worst of the worst. I signed up for TikTok when it first came. Well, listen, I was probably behind the times, but I was on a site or an app called Bleacher Report. It gives you all the sports stuff, and all these TikTok things came up. I'm like, oh, sweet, I could watch sports stuff. I sign up, I hop on TikTok. I do all my likes. I'm like, okay, I like sports, I like movies, I like this, I like that, and so this is great. And I'm scrolling through, and it sends you the popular videos. It's the For You, what other people are watching. Well, what other people were watching was highly inappropriate within 10 minutes. I did not ask for the yoga pants girl in her sports bra doing a TikTok dance. I didn't ask for that, but I got it within 10 minutes. Within 10 minutes. Now, if within 10 minutes I found that, what do you think you can find on TikTok? I heard a story this week of there was some teenage girls who got together and they were doing a dance in their bras. For all of TikTok to see. Even if their accounts are private, they still have friends that go to school with them. For all their friends to see. Now let me ask you this, adult male. You seeing that on TikTok? Well, I'm not their friends. You don't think TikTok's sending you stuff? 20 years ago you see that, and as a male, you're in trouble. But now there's underage stuff all the time. Girls are hopping on TikTok in their bras or worse for the world to see, to do a provocative dance that they don't think is provocative because the world's told them it's okay and it's a challenge. So let's do it for the whole world to see. There's inappropriate stuff everywhere. Everywhere. You can find explicit stuff. They say you can't, but they don't moderate it that well. Access.org gives an example of some of the popular trends that have came over in several years. So they have TikTok challenges, and there's these different trends. And so here's an example of one in March and April 2020. It was called the Surprising My Boyfriend Naked Challenge. Sounds great, doesn't it? So the challenge is, it says, there's a link to it in Access.org. It says, watch at your own discretion. It says, in which girls record their boyfriends or husbands' reaction to their naked bodies. The videos never actually show any nudity, but the towel dropping and reaction reveals enough for the imagination. The takeaway here is that through trends like the Surprise My Boyfriend Naked, though they will fade in popularity, at least until next year, other trends will happen, and it's impossible to screen them all or keep young social media users from seeing them. You're on TikTok. Oh, hey, my friend did this challenge. You've seen it. Your eye's seen it. You can't unsee it. You go in and you got a crush on a girl, and all of a sudden you're on TikTok and she's with her friends dancing half naked on the screen. You can't unsee it. This is what TikTok is showing our kids. And once again, we got a craze of adults hopping on TikTok, doing TikTok dances or doing whatever. Well, it's not inappropriate. But you're justifying your kids being on it. All the while, TikTok, according to the Wall Street Journal and New York Times, which makes me laugh every time because it's the New York Times and Wall Street Journal. says that it's the most wicked of all. Man, guys, the world is just bombarding our kids and parents. We have to guard them against it, which means I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to say it. I'm going to be blunt and just say it, which means some of you all need to get off some of these apps and start watching your kids and start protecting your kids. And I get it. I get the idea. My kids just aren't going to be cool. All their friends are on it. All their friends are on their smartphones, or on Snapchat, or on TikTok, or on all these things. Okay, I get it. I get it's going to make your kids' life challenging. But you know what? They might just be a little more pure if you allow them to get off that stuff. They might be a little more godly. We have to protect our kids because social media is just evil. And then you have Reddit. If you don't know what Reddit is, here it is. Put simply, Reddit is an enormous message board composed of literally millions of smaller messages. And so basically everybody gets on. You can create your own message boards. You can talk. The idea with Reddit is this. Reddit's own thing. You Google Reddit and it comes up. It says dive into anything. You know what that means? You can dive into anything. Anything you want. There's mature content all over the place, mature conversations. You can't stop it. Your kids can find it everywhere. Reddit is fairly popular. And now we're going to talk about some of the video streaming things, and we're going to start moving a little faster, but there's YouTube. I allow my kids to watch YouTube, but I allow them to watch Dude Perfect. But you know what? If I'm not watching what they're watching, as soon as Dude Perfect's over, well, you like Dude Perfect, so here's another app that you like that's not Dude Perfect, but it's kind of like it. And then you can rabbit trail from there. Dude Perfect, explicit content, there's mature content all over the place. Your kids can find it. YouTube's great for figuring out how to do something. If you want to find out how to do something. But it's terrible if you just let your kids roam through the world of YouTube because they can find anything they want. Facebook Live, your kids probably aren't using it, but once again, it's out there. Facebook Live has actually a lot of users who are using it. People just get on live. They talk about whatever they want. There's mature content. Your kids can find stuff. YouNow. YouNow is an app. It is so YouNow is this. The best way to broadcast live and get an audience to watch you. Wonderful. Basically, you can take advantage of anything that used to be only available to network TV and broadcast yourself real time. Anytime to anyone who is on the app. Take a snapshot, comment, send digital gifts, follow different people. So an example of what you can do on YouNow and many of these other things that we're going to be skipping over pretty quickly, but YouNow, they found a thing called the Sleepover Nightmare. And so this is from Protect Your Eyes site, and they had this as an example. It says Sleepover Nightmare. Imagine it's midnight and a pair of teen girls use horrible language, wearing skimpy pajamas, and are having live conversations being viewed by hundreds of random people who are daring them to do or say things. What could possibly go wrong? This is YouNow. And it's a ton of fun, but it's also a toxic mess of temptation for any young internet user. This is what you can do on the internet. These are some of the popular apps. You can stream anything, anywhere. You can watch anything. People can say whatever they want in this app. The next app is LiveMe. It's the same as YouNow. This one is gaining much more popularity. There's sexual images and videos readily available from what I've read. It's everywhere. Vimeo, it's not as popular as YouTube, but it's another video site. The site says itself home for high quality video. You can find a bunch of different things about it. And as I don't dive into all of these things, you guys can do your own research, but at least you know what the little app looks like. Vigo Now is gaining popularity. It's the same as YouNow and LiveMe. Like I said, when I listed a lot of the top dangerous apps, LiveMe, Vigo Live, a lot of these are just popping up. They just keep coming. And when they finally get shut down or lose popularity, guess what? Another one comes up. That's why, parents, you have to be on top of it. Then there's all the music apps. And so I listed them below, and these are the popular ones that kids will use. And so let me just tell you this. Watch what your kids are listening to. I go to camp every year, and this year everyone had their earbuds in on the way to camp, and I'm like, hey, what you listening to? Surprisingly, they showed me because I don't think they cared. I looked at multiple kids' playlists, and they were all explicit. All explicit. All rappers. You know what they're listening to, parents. It's all about sex, drugs, alcohol, violence, some even about rape. And I looked up song after song and lyric after lyric, and that's what our kids are listening to. Taylor Swift has an explicit song. Who knew? One of the top songs last year was Little Nas X. If you listen to Theology Roundtable, this is who Brett referred to as Little Nasty X. But he has a video where, Old Town Row, he sucked everybody in. It's popular. It's great. This is a great thing. And then like a year later, he's doing a video giving Satan a lap dance. That's what our kids are listening to. I recommend this for you, parents. If your kids have an app where they have music on it, get on and listen to their playlists. Spotify does a year in review. See what your kids are listening to. Gaming apps. Not going to talk a lot about this because we're going to talk about this a little bit with addiction in a few weeks, but gaming apps. Your kids can get on and they can watch any video game they bloody well please. Anything. Minecraft, all the way to Call of Duty. They can watch it all. All while someone's talking and people are chatting and there's profanity and it's all live. Everything's live. You can go down dark places. Twitch users view at least 71 million hours of content daily. And it's not all good content. And your kid can find anything they want. They do a pretty good job of moderating nudity, but people will find ways to put provocative things and talk about bad things. And if a kid's looking, they're going to find it on Twitch, YouTube gaming, or Facebook gaming. Browsers. Here's the top 4 popular browsers. There are many more. One thing to know about browsers is, and I think you all know this, guys, you can find anything you want on a browser. Anything your little heart desires. But parents, do you know about incognito mode? Well, I search, their browser history. Well, if you go into incognito mode, it doesn't record any of it. So as we talk about parental controls in a few weeks and we start helping you go through this kind of stuff, you can make sure your kids can't delete their browser history and go into incognito mode. Because if they go into incognito mode, they can close that tab and it's like they were never there. So you got to watch out for this stuff. Chat. All these apps, I know I'm running a little late, I'm sorry, I'm going to keep rolling real quick. All these apps, you can send pictures and videos. Discord's probably the most popular of all these. It's actually, they call themselves a social network, a social media thing now. But basically, you can view stuff that, is 18 years or older. You have to put in your age because they say it's for users 13 and they try to regulate it. But once again, if I'm 13 and I want to be 20, I'm just going to say I'm 20. And so you can go in there and you can find anything you want. There's mature content, there's mature conversations, and so you can go to Discord with the best of intentions and you can be using it to chat while you're playing games with all your friends, but your kids can also just be scrolling through and finding anything in the world. Protect Your Eyes says this of Discord. Discord is a mature environment. Please proceed with caution. GroupMe is an app. We actually use it in Ignite to chat with different people, but you can send pictures. It can be dangerous. I actually just learned this Friday. There is a hidden internet search bar in there. It turns out that a lot of these chat apps have hidden internet search bars. So you go in there and, I look at my kids' search history. Well, guess what? Did you look in GroupMe? Did you look in Telegram? Did you look in these other apps? Telegram is also another messenger app, and you can have secret apps. You can set your things to self-destruct. And it has a lot of adult content and porn. Amino is an app. It's a network of communities that let you explore, discover, and obsess over the things you're into. So you can go in, you can join all these things. You can have all these kind of conversations. This app is gaining a lot of popularity. It keeps coming up in dangerous apps because you can go in, it'll target your teen with the LGBT community. If you're struggling with your sexuality as a teen, you can go in and they'll help you do everything you need to do to get hormones, to make that change, everything you need to say to a doctor, everything you need to say to your parents. And a lot of it you can do without your parents. You can get so far down the road that by the time a parent finds out, it could be too late. And Aminio is one of the apps where kids are starting to do that. And they're targeting your kids. And if they find any sign of weakness, they'll prey on your kid. Signal, a lot like Snapchat. Harder to find inappropriate contents, but messages can be deleted. WhatsApp app is just a messenger app. It's not a huge risk. Actually, of all the apps, this is probably the cleanest app out there. Just watch who your kids are talking to. You have Session is also a private messenger. Spot a Friend should be in the dating thing, but this is also gaining a lot of popularity. In Spot a Friend thing on Apple, it says over 2 million teenagers are waiting for your kids to talk to, and they randomly just give it to them. Holla is a video chat that randomly connects you to strangers. And so it says, however, violence, profanity, nudity are pretty common on this place. So if you look at Holla, Omega, Whisper, Bam, all those things, if you see those apps, get them off your kid's phone. Ask FM is a place where you can go out, you can ask random anonymous questions and get random anonymous answers. Sounds great for teenagers, doesn't it? It fuels cruelty is what it says. And IMO and House Party is just a bunch of different chats where you can do all the same stuff. And the next we're going to go through quickly, but friends, find friends in dating apps. Wink. You got Wink, you got Bestie. Which way? By the way, Bestie you got to pay for, but it says it's for 9+. Bestie, Meet Me. All these apps are set for your kids to meet random people. And it's nothing for a 25-year-old to say that they're 17, hop on here and randomly meet your kid. Well, you're in Philly and you're lonely and I'm lonely, so here we go. These are the apps. Grindr, watch out for Grindr because it connects LGBT people and it's gaining popularity. Scout is a flirting app. Well, hey, let's get on an app and flirt. Badoo, same thing. Kids are hopping on these apps. It's like Tinder for kids. Which, by the way, your kids can hop on Tinder and pretend that they're 25 too. So watch out for that. And then fake apps, and I'm not going to spend much time on this, but there's a lot of fake apps that look like a calculator, that look like a nice little app, and you know what they are? They're where they can hide their texts. They're where they can hide all this stuff. And so parents, if you're thinking, oh my goodness, my kids can have fake apps, that's where we get into our practical advice. And so the first thing we need to do as parents, we just listed a lot, and this isn't even close to all of it. We listed a lot of things your kids can get into. The world's throwing it all at them. What do? Well, you know it. I spent hours of research, and Craig spent hours of research. And mom and dad, if you have a teen and they live in this world, spend hours of researching it. Know these apps. Know what a fake app looks like. Know what your kids are getting into. Then next, these aren't hard things. Set boundaries. We're going to go over parent controls. Set up parent controls. If your kid's 16 and he's never had parent controls, you know what you need to do? Say, hey, we're putting parent controls on you. Oh, I don't want to. Oh, it doesn't matter. I pay for your phone. Look at your kid's phone. Know what they're looking at. Talk to them. Educate them. Tell them why it's not great to meet a guy right down the road. Why it's not good to look at pornography. And then the last thing, it's okay to tell your kids no. Son, daughter, you can't have TikTok and Snapchat. But I want... No. You're the parents. Protect them. It's our job to protect our kids, parents. And I promise you this, if you're letting them roam free, I went through a lot of stats and I went through a lot of things, and you research these things, and they're terrifying if your kids are just roaming the internet free. Lock them down. Kids, I may have just ruined your life. You're welcome. It's for your good. Dear God, we love you. We thank you just for all you do for us. We thank you for loving us. And Lord, I know that this is a lot of information, and I went a little later than normal, but man, the world of social media and apps is a very dangerous world, Lord. And I do pray that we all consider what's out there. And I pray that we all begin to, if we're not doing already, that we just protect our kids. We have to teach them how to navigate this world, because someday they're not going to be in our care. They're going to grow up and they're going to go to college, or they're going to go into the workforce. And man, we got to teach them now what's out there and why it's dangerous and what's dangerous about it, Lord. So I pray that we're able to better connect, or better protect and better guide our kids, Lord. Amen. We will be going over how to lock your kid's phone down. We will be helping you. If those things don't help you, come talk to me and Craig. We would love nothing less than to help you lock your kid down.